Hello, Dr. Patrick Porter. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
We are at the Biohacker Conference, and Dr. Porter, you are the founder of BrainTap. Can you tell us more about it?
Sure. BrainTap is a brain fitness company where we have an app that can work solo, or we have an app that will work with our headset. The headset is kind of unique because it uses light, sound, and vibration. And we're using 7 different technologies at once. So a lot of people try to compare us to other things, but nobody has what we have. Because we have auricular therapy in the ears where it changes every 2 minutes to a different Nogier frequency. Mm-hmm. Dr. Nogier was the person who came up with iridology, kind of like acupuncture, but he focuses on the ears. Mm-hmm. And there's meridians that go into the ears. So all your body's connected. We're like a hologram anyway. So they can read the eyes, they can read the ears. And what we're doing is through photobiomodulation, which means when we introduce light energy into the body, the hemoglobin is going to absorb that light energy and it's going to circulate around the body until it finds a cell that's about to die. It's not hard because you're changing cells, 50 million cells per second. So, they're always dying and they're always being reborn and things like that. But if you can find one before it dies completely, it will absorb that light charge. Mm-hmm. And our cells at the very core, what they're doing is they're little ATP generators. So they generate energy. And just like people say they go mining for blockchain, right? Well, your ATP, whatever you eat, think, breathe, around, everything is going into your energy system and either taking your energy or giving your energy. So in putting it on a social scale, we have friends that drain us of energy and friends that give us energy, right? So we have the drainers and the gainers. And that's because we're energy people. We have energy we exchange. So what the light energy is doing is going into the cell. That light that would normally make, let's say, 1% energy, I'm just using that as an example, it could be a lot better, but 32 times more light energy is created through the red and blue light. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we're saying you can do your meditation on your own, or you can use BrainTap and get 32% more energy. And we prove that because we have technology that shows that. And just to give the listeners an idea, when you and I were young, and me a lot longer ago than you, my brain, everyone's brain, operated about 18.1 volts. So that's like your brain as a kid. You're wired up, you're on fire. By the time you get to be 30, the average brain is 10.1. You've lost half your voltage. Yeah. And so, and then we just had somebody in the office the other week was a 3 volt. Now, what happens when we have these 2 sides of our brain? Most people have heard about the right and left hemisphere. Mm-hmm. We have the hippocampus that mirrors them, and all this information that goes back and forth between the brain. But if, let's say, it's supposed to be matched. If I say 10.1 across the frontal lobe, that means 10.1 here, 10.1 here, and we could measure that through something called EEG. And if they're mismatched, like usually what happens for dementia, Alzheimer's, learning disabilities, the left hemisphere is going to slow down.
Yes.
And so they're not, think of it like these 2 are on a network. And as long as they're the same voltage, they're talking. Uh-huh. But as soon as one's on a different voltage, it's not talking to this one anymore. You've heard the expression, maybe you're at work and somebody said the internet's down.
Oh, yes.
The internet's never down.
Yes, yeah.
Never. Your connection to the internet's down.
Right.
So when you think about our brain and our body, it's our connection that's down, not the brain, because we have something called the biosphere, which is the energy field around us that in 1994, NIH said we have this energy field in the body. And that energy field is where the illness starts. They said this, the National Institute of Health, but they don't promote it because it's not a pillar of, it's not something they can put a patent on. But the reality is what I believe we need to do more than anything else is have mitochondrial health. And I know here at biohacking, that's what most of them are focused on. Yeah. So if we can get the mitochondria working, the body knows what to do. This body is wonderful. It knows how to heal. But if we're stressed out, eating poorly, not moving, no socialization, our body's going to decline and we're going to get depressed.
Interesting. I didn't realize, I never thought about it, it's not connecting rather than that the brain is not working.
Right.
But when you lose a connection, and these days, with a lot of neurodegenerative diseases, we really need all the help we can get.
Yeah, and what happens is we have these frequencies, these voltages create fields. Just like a magnet would have a field around it. We have 5 primary fields. There's more than that, but there's 5 that we talk about all the time. Beta, where we're talking right now, is our reactionary mind. It's consciousness. We can react. We can drive our cars. We wouldn't want to be in another state driving your car. So if we drop down into relaxed states, it would be alpha. And alpha is usually considered the meditation state. If you can get to 10 hertz frequency, they call it neutral for the brain, and you can creatively visualize and start dreaming about your future, problem solving, those kind of things. And then when you drop down below that, there's a state called theta. Theta is really important, especially for adults in the world today, because most people don't have that. That's why they're not sleeping. 2/3 of the world's not sleeping. It's not because they don't have enough delta. Most brains we scan have over 60% of their brain in delta. They have too much delta. But when they go to sleep, their brain flips and they become too much beta. So that's why we have to train and condition the brain for these different brain waves. So delta is being the unconscious brain. And I've seen on the internet recently, people are saying they're programming in delta. I'd like to see that because you're not even there. It's like when you fall asleep on the couch and someone tries to move you, they go, you were dead to the world. You couldn't even move. That's because you were gone during level 4 sleep.
I see.
During level 4 sleep, back in 2015, they found out that we had this glial lymphomic system in the brain, and they didn't know about it before then. So what does that mean? What else do we have in our body right now that they didn't know about?
Oh, yes.
I mean, before 2015, all physiology books had a lymph system go only to the neck. But we're learned everywhere there's a blood vessel, there's a lymph vessel. So, but they just said, oh, well, it doesn't work in the neck and head area. But now they know that when you get to sleep, because of the blood-brain barrier, they basically take you offline. Level 4 sleep, you're not there anymore. You're like wherever your consciousness is, wherever you go when you sleep, which I don't know what that is, but you're not here during that time. Your consciousness is not locale, whatever. It's wherever our consciousness goes when we're sleeping, and it's not some weird thing. It's just what we've been doing our whole life. So in the process of doing that release, when you release this world and you get into that deep sleep, you do a lot of great things for your body. It's almost like when you're so stressed out and then you cry. And then after the cry, you go, oh, I feel so much better because you released. Yes. Our body has ways of releasing, and of course humans are one of the only animals that cry and even have happiness, although I would beg to, I don't think cats have any emotion, but the dog, I have a couple of cats, but the dogs, they seem to have emotions. They seem to mirror their masters. And we did a research project actually with first responders in Kansas City with the dogs. I didn't realize this, but those dogs only live to be 3 or 4 years.
Well, that's my sure.
Yes, because they're subjecting them to all the toxins, and because they got to smell the bombs and things like that. And it's hard on the trainer. You spend all this time training your dog, and then you only live for
relationship.
So what we were showing was when the first responders were on the BrainTap, the dogs would come up and put their head on their lap while they're doing it. So they were and we were showing them that the dogs were actually getting relaxation that they needed when their master, whoever their master was, when he was. And we have a lot of people with BrainTap send us pictures, their cat on their lap, their dog on their lap, because you create that field of energy and people want to be around you. And there's only an infinite amount, so you can't give away your energy. What happens though when somebody says, oh, they drain me, it's because you didn't let it flow. There's an infinite amount of energy behind that. So think of it like you're the dam and you're only letting a little bit of water through. As soon as you open up the filters, you can let all that energy through. And if we let all that energy through, we'll be more creative, more outgoing, spontaneous. Our body will heal. We heal better in a flow state than we do in a restricted, stressed out state.
Yes, of course, yes. Amazing. I'm learning so much. Incredible. What's, even different frequencies and what's happening when we're sleeping. Yes, exactly. We have to let ourselves go, and when we are stress is so bad for everyone.
Right. Stress is bad if you don't have the capacity and you don't recover. So everyone's going to have stress. So you've got to plan your recovery. Like people go, I don't have time to meditate. Well, the Dalai Lama said, if you don't have time to meditate, then do it twice a day.
Yeah.
Because there's a saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. So just if you're that busy, this is a part of your requirement. Because eventually people are exchanging their life essence for their money. Pretty soon they'll have to spend all that money to try to preserve their life energy. So let's do it at the same time. You can do it all, but you've got to set aside time to recover. And there's 3 times during the day that's best for. You can start in the morning, because some people, the first thing they do is have a cup of coffee. I'm not against coffee, just first thing in the morning, no. If you have to drink coffee first thing in the morning, you have a dysregulated brain. There's something called the cortisol trough. And so it starts high, and then about 12 o'clock drops until 2 o'clock, you have to reboot. So if you drink coffee, what they showed is that cortisol drops 2 hours. So now instead of getting tired at 12, you're getting tired at 10. You can't even make it to 2. And then, or you have to have another cup of coffee. So that's the other cup of coffee. Then when it happens again, that's another cup of coffee. So if you're drinking 3 cups of coffee, you're dysregulating your nervous system because you're using biologics to do something that's meant for electrical system. We're electrical beings. The parasympathetic, sympathetic system are electrical. The neurohormonal is the physical one. And if we use that too much, we get adrenal burnout. Because these bodies are designed, these bodies, every cell has piezoelectricity. We're transmitting light all the time and energy. And when we get restricted or stressed out, we go into cell danger response. So we want to keep our consciousness, our experiences outgoing, that we can handle it. And then, just know that you're never going to be given a task that you can't handle. Now, you might not be able to do it all at one time, so you got to break it down into chunks and you have to do their things. But when you become a problem solver, I think right now we have too many followers in the world. They believe everything that they see without doing any research or even questioning it. And it's ridiculous stuff, right? Like wear a mask, and that's ridiculous. It makes no sense. And now they got old people still doing it. But that's where the power of suggestion comes from. These are people in power, and people think they must know something, and they actually think our government's out to protect us. They're out to protect big business because that's who's paying them. Or at least they think that's what it is. But we do have the power, and we can choose that power with our paycheck, right? We can eat healthy foods. We can buy organic foods. We can go to do physical activities to take us away from the computers and get them going. We can deal with our stress because, like Tom Brady, who's one of our partners, his group is called TBRX, Andrew Boer and Peter Cummings, and the reason they started BrainTap with all their pro athletes was they need recovery. I mean, imagine you're working your body that hard, that strong, and what we find is they're usually overtrained because people think it's all about doing. It's not about doing. When you're resting, I like to tell people, you're not doing nothing. You're doing a lot of neurological work. You're preparing for your future. Imagine you go to a movie, your favorite movie, they never rehearsed. You get to watch the actors and actresses out there stumbling and bumbling around. People do that in their own life. I'm like, why wouldn't you just take 5 minutes, visualize that meeting, the outcome you want, visualize, and that creates what's called a strange attractor in science. That strange attractor means everything pulls and bends its energy toward that thing. That's what that end result is, that goal you have for your meeting or whatever you're doing. And then it seems like the unseen forces of the universe conspire with you to get that thing because you're focusing on it, because it has a magnetic attraction. They know thoughts are more than things, but thoughts can be weighed and measured now. Not a lot, but it's energy. And that energy, just like when you're watching a fire and what you're feeling is warmth, is actually the photic energy leaving the log and being redistributed in the universe. But we're experiencing it as heat. That's why when somebody says, bring the heat, you bring your light to the experience. And I think that if we learn that taking 10, 20 minutes a day or more, I do a lot because I love to meditate, and that's my company, right? So but the reality is that at least once a day, you should be doing this because life happens. And life isn't always disappointment. But if you don't manage those disappointments, it will seem like everything's disappointing. And then you'll start putting these perceptual filters up that, for instance, a relationship, maybe you had a bad relationship and now all guys are SOBs and you can't trust them. And then you don't realize it. And you get in another relationship and you sabotage it because this background information is all that all guys are scoundrels and they're going to cheat on you or whatever, and instead of saying, this is a new opportunity. I don't know if this is the way this guy's going to do. Of course, some things guys are going to do, but some things we can't change. But that's just the way that we're hardwired. If you start to understand that, I mean, but it's not that we can't change. But what's worse is when you're prejudged, and it's a negative. It's better to prejudge as a positive and be disappointed when it doesn't happen than be disappointed the whole time. I was told once, you're too damn positive for it. And I said, well, I'd rather be positive and be disappointed every once in a while than be negative all day long. When a positive opportunity comes, I don't even recognize it. So that's where that gratitude journal goes in. The other things at night when you're before to go to bed, refocus on all the positive things you did today. And also there's something in NLP that I learned from Dr. Bandler, and then when I was taking the training in the 80s, was all positive memories should be stored in color. With sound, with experience. You need we call it in psychology revivification. So we're reviving them. In those negative experiences, we should take the sound out of them, make them black and white, put them behind us. Because that's what people say, like if you had a relationship and say, how's it going with Fred? Oh, he's behind me now. They do this anyway. So it's part of our psychological makeup. So use those, we call it Tai Chi for the mind. So when that thought comes up, it's just a thought.
Yes.
It's not an action, like you don't have to take action. Like when somebody pulls over in front of you in traffic, you get angry and upset, you might want to ram them, but you don't because you have this capacity to say, no, that would be the end result of that behavior would be bad. So, but what we do internally is the same thing. Don't take it all so personally. Don't take it all so, people don't even know you exist. You think they do, but they don't, because they're thinking about themselves, just like you're talking about yourself, which is the way it should be. So, but when you go into the brain tapping meditation state, the mindfulness meditation, breath work, these kind of things, it makes you outside you're not just taking care of yourself, especially the way that we do it. Like if I was going to do breath work and doing breathing out, I would be breathing in whatever's in the room, breathing out some kind of whatever positive thinking is. And then now my brain has programmed this space to be a positive space. Wherever I go in this space, I'm positive. Now, if I didn't do any of that planning, I would be guessing all the time. I'd be like walking on pins and needles, what's going on. Now, you don't know everything that's going to happen today, but I love Deepak Chopra when he said, this was back in the 90s, he said 97% of what's going to happen to you tomorrow, we know about today. So what are you pretending not to know? And when somebody wants to get rid of an addiction or make some behavior changes, you go, well, what have you done to prepare yourself to remember those things and to forget those things you don't want to do anymore? Because you're doing everything 100% of the time that you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, regardless of the excuse you give yourself.
Yes.
It's still your choice. You can choose not to do those things, or you can choose to do them. And so if you're going to choose to do them, I always say, pick the best way, the easiest way, the most fun way, because you're going to be doing it a long time, because this is not a once and done thing. This life is a you're never there thing. Because no matter how deep you meditated, no matter how great your life is, it's like playing golf. You could have used a better club. You could have putted a little bit cleaner. There could have been something, and that's not bad, but you're only overcritical with yourself. Do you want to, if most people, they say we have a 5,000 tape loop that plays in our head. Most people, if they heard it, would just be, they would never let anybody talk to themselves like that, but they talk to themselves that poorly. And they beat themselves up, and they keep perpetuating conversations from brothers and sisters, preachers and teachers that don't mean anything anymore. Some of the people might even be dead, but they're still controlling them by their, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, gosh darn it, people just don't like you. They're like the skit goes. The reality is that, some people have too much self-esteem, right? And they're going, what's wrong with that person? They're not all that, but it's better to be that way. Because what we know about epigenetics, and I talked about this on the stages, in 2003 when they mapped out the human genome, they didn't. They mapped out 1%. Could you imagine going to school and your final exam, you answer 1% of the questions, say, I want to graduate? They're going to say, no way. But in 2018, when they found out what the other 99% was, God doesn't make any junk, but so they said it was junk DNA. Now they say, oh, it's not junk DNA anymore. It's the expression of genes, and it upregulates or downregulates. This is the epigenetic system, and it's triggered by our psychoimmune system. So our psychology is actually programming it.
Yes.
So in our physiology plays into that. So if you don't have good physiology, like if you're not exercising and moving and breathing, our brain is designed for. The reason we have such a big brain, really in such a little body, is because we decided to stand up and walk. If we were crawling around, we wouldn't need this big brain because our dangers would be different. We'd probably have, even though our nose is very sensitive, it'd probably be even more sensitive, more like a dog or a cat, because we'd be down there sniffing. But we're up here, we're seeing the horizon, and we're actually doing things that, because we can also include technology, whether it be a club or, an iPhone today. So I mean, the whole thing about brain fitness and why we're here is that most people, their life is dulling the sword, dulling it. And you just need to revive it. There's good things that happen to you. There's good things that happen to your family. Focus on those things. Turn off the news at night. In fact, I require, if somebody's working with me, you can't watch the news.
Yes.
Because you can get news updates if you want, but they scour the whole planet to give us an hour of bad news.
Oh, yeah.
And people watch it like it's real.
I know.
It's happening so far away from you. You can't do anything about it. And the worst thing is to find bad news that you can't do anything about. Because the brain, when they did a study during COVID that I get taught on Fox Radio all the time recently, the study just came out, it showed that teenage girls' ages, brains aged 4.5 years during COVID.
Oh, wow.
Boys 1.5.
Yes.
So I was being interviewed, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? I said, well, I'm pretty sure if they measured neuroplasticity, if you measure it in voltage.
Yeah.
I said, you're probably going to find that they lost, because when we're born, we're fully wired.
Yes.
And as we learn, we unwire. So when you're going through all these things, you're trying to find a pattern, what's going to make it work, but you're unwiring on the way. So what we know is when you use light energy, we can't bring back the old circuits. We can build new ones though.
Yeah.
That's Hebb's law. You know, those neurons that fire together, wire together.
Oh yeah.
So we want to create new habits, new patterns, new behaviors. And the more you start doing that now and creating the habit that change is possible, not being fixed, like taking a different way home from work, holding a book with your other hand that you might not, brushing your teeth with the other hand. There's a really good book called Writing like R-I, writing on the right side of the brain.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of exercises to do that, because we're, as a culture, that's why like I love martial arts or yoga and that, because they're doing both right and left brain stuff. And most people, unfortunately, they're taking recesses out of the schools, so they're not getting the exercise. Our nervous system is directly linked to how flexible and pliable our nervous system is. And if we're not in alignment with that, then the body will self-destruct. It'll make problems.
Amazing. Wow. All the information, what we can do and how we can implement all these different things. You know, as you said, focus on the positive and meditate, use BrainTap to help you on a regular basis. And, you know, because stress is going to occur on the road, it's not something we can control.
Yeah. So. And one last thing then, if I know, so the 20-minute one in the afternoon, we did a study with Googlers and Microsoft users, the top 1% with Julie Hart. It's a peak performance study. We showed that when they took that 20 minutes off in the middle of the day, their depression score improved 70%. They were all clinically depressed. They were ready for burnout. And they actually slept better. They had 47% better sleep. But they didn't do anything before sleep. Yeah. So there was a lot of other factors, but the reality, when you take that break at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you will have that new cortisol trough. When you wake up, you'll have the norepinephrine, dopamine, and cortisol. Now you have it until about 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. Now when you're ready to be home with your family and maybe have some friends over, you've got energy. Yeah. Instead of just hopping on your couch and passing out. Oh yeah. You know, a lot of people go, because if you have high delta, it's like pulling a parachute all day long. Yeah. And when you finally get to unlock that parachute, you just want to crash. Oh yeah. Well, that's what you work for, is to have that time with your family and friends and celebrate. You shouldn't just go home and pass out. So what we recommend is, if you can't do it at 2 o'clock, just do it right as soon as you get home. And then you'll be a different person for your family. You'll be the person that they want to be with, because you won't be carrying all that stress from your job and all that anxiety and all that fear. Excellent tip. That was fantastic for biohackers to implement right away. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Porter. Thank you. Thank you.
Unlock your full potential at the Biohackers World Conference and Expo in Los Angeles on March 29th and 30th. Connect with leaders in health optimization, learn the secrets to longevity, boost your performance, and dive into the latest biohacking and wellness innovations. Don't miss out. Tickets are going fast.